Hello, have you ever been wondering what it takes to make a car? Well, I would like to let you know what goes into the process of putting a car from raw metal to driving it down the road. Hi, I'm Sean Duke, and as a person who works in the car industry, I've spent a lot of time in and out of many different cars. I've also gotten the experience of participating in a program that lets me spend some time in one of the largest car manufacturing plants in the U.S. The process of manufacturing a car is very interesting, and a lot more actually goes into it than what you would think. So I want to take some time to explain to you the process that starts from raw steel and aluminum to making the body and all powertrain components. I will also tell you some history about the start of mass production of the automobile. To start with, I want to go over back to the start of the production of vehicles all the way back to 1908. Henry Ford started his production of the Model T. This all started back in his hometown in a small building called the Paquette plant in Detroit, Michigan. At this time, Henry Ford was able to make only a couple Model T automobiles per day and wanted to speed up his production to match the demand for the car. In 1913, Ford opened his new 60-acre Highland Park plant. This made it so that he could produce hundreds of vehicles each day. This revolutionized the production of the vehicle, but the demand got even higher throughout time. Ford then moved to a new plant in 1920. This plant was 20,000 acres that Ford made so he could make all the parts from the rubber for the tires and the metal for the frame and shell of all the wide production of cars he had. The plant was connected to the river where large barges and ships could bring in all the raw ore and melt it down into steel, copper, and brass. He even had his own rubber farm. If you didn't know, rubber was made from a sap from a Harvina borlacenus tree. Ford had thousands of these trees planted on a farm on the plant's property that allowed Ford not to have to wait and rely on other companies to bring in supplies from other countries, from South America and Africa. This made it possible for thousands of cars to be made each day. Now let's get into what really goes on into making a car. The process starts with a fairly simple process of raw steel is brought in and ran through a system of forming machines that form each individual part of the body, frame, and of a truck. This then uses a series of programmed robots to connect and make the final shape of the vehicle. The robots paint the whole cab, then the engine and other drivetrain components are milled out of solid blocks of metal and assembled by a specialized group of assemblers. They assemble all the engine and transmission components. This process takes about 2 hours per person, and they can make hundreds of engines per day. The drivetrain is then mounted to the frame and combined to make the chassis. The body is then met with the chassis, and then all the doors and interior parts are added, as well as electronics. Each system is done by one or two people, and the vehicle constantly keeps moving down the assembly line. And each person completes their one single task. The vehicle will then roll off the end of the assembly line. They all roll off back to back. A test drive is done to verify that everything was done right, and the vehicle is sent to dealerships all around the world for people like you to drive. The whole process takes only a couple hours for all the parts to come together. I hope you enjoyed learning about the process and history of making a vehicle come to life, and I hope that you can take into consideration the time it takes and all of the effort that goes in and hard work that goes into making a car. And mistakes happen from time to time, and car companies will make the time to go back and make the necessary changes and fixes needed. And I hope you learned a little bit of new information, and thank you for your time.
All right.